Andy arrived home when it was late afternoon. Coming home on foot from the used goods market is quite draining, especially when the whole body is stung by the summer sun. Andy took a glass of fruit juice from the refrigerator and drank it immediately after sitting on a study chair. The plastic package containing the book he bought earlier was opened, then he placed it on the table. Andy still feels something interesting about the book in front of him. The shape is fairly simple, just like a normal book, nothing special. Moreover, the sheets of paper have brownish and many blank sheets. The decision to buy it suddenly appeared when he saw his handwriting and illustrated drawings in the form of sketches that he had never encountered, arranged in a series of interesting stories. At first glance it looks like an unfinished storybook or just an ordinary essay, but apparently it makes Andy curious to read all the pieces of paper inside. Let's see what this book contains. GAIA. Andy chatted as he read the title on the cover. The first page contains an introduction from the author. Dear reader, this book is my next life, very valuable. If it were possible to take it away then I would do it, but someone must read and be a part of it. Andy frowned because he did not understand the meaning of the first paragraph sentence. What do you mean by being part of it? Usually, like books in general, the introduction is usually the heart of the writer, but this immediately invited him to participate. Very interesting. The right choice is a pleasant life. Every challenge will lead to unexpected opportunities, but in every decision there are of course various risks. Apparently there is something hidden in the next page. The second paragraph also raises a question mark. What book is this? Andy felt very interested. The next paragraph is no less mysterious than before, containing the challenge of completing the whole story with courage. But there is a price to pay. All must be lived with confidence, because courage and wisdom will be the winners. Really, for God's sake, if I could tell you all of its contents. Andy was increasingly provoked to know more about the writings in the book, but fatigue had made his eyes sleepy. His vision was no longer clear reading the sentence on a sheet of paper, and moved from the study chair to the bed. I think this will be an interesting reading book. Andy muttered as he closed his eyes. The waterfall from the top of the cliff falls heavily on the big rocks, and then flows united into a small lake. The water is clean, so that a group of small catfish can be seen clearly being chased by a red trout. The sun seems to have reached the middle of the sky. The light stings the human body that sleeps on the green grass at the edge of the lake. Suddenly the person's eyes opened. The refractive flashes of light from above the water dazzled his view, but the roar of the waterfall had not been able to make it change from a reclining position. A few moments later, his body rose, looked confused and turned his body in all directions. Oh my god, where am I? His eyes looked around. He checked all of his clothes, banging his body and even pinching his cheeks. This is just a dream. No, this is not a dream. Where is this? And how can I get here and move from my bedroom to this place? Apparently the person was Andy. He woke up in a place he did not know and was very surprised because he woke up in a lake accompanied by the roar of the waterfall. Is anybody here? Hello, anyone? Hello. Andy started shouting in the hope that someone would answer his call. No, it must be a dream. No way. I'm just sleeping too tight. Andy still doesn't believe in his current condition. His mind still considers what is being seen is part of a dream. His logic says maybe everything happened because of being too tired due to walk this afternoon from the thrift market to the house. But it is so real. I can even feel the cold water, fresh air and move my whole body. Andy felt very confused and then approached the waterfall, washed his face, drank the water, then went around the lake. I'm not dreaming, but where is this? I have to stay quiet waiting for help. Maybe my mother has contacted the police, or immediately leave here before it gets dark. But which direction is safe? No, I better wait a while longer. Maybe this is just a dream. I just need to close my eyes and go back to sleep. Andy apparently chose to keep waiting at the lake because of various considerations, especially his mind still thinks the present situation is part of the dream. The day slowly moved into the afternoon, the sun had fallen behind a stretch of dense trees, Andy began to fidget with his condition now. A pair of eyes suddenly collided with Andy. A creature emerged from the bush approaching, his large body showing pointed fangs, slowly walking, growling and then quickly ran towards where Andy stood and pounced. Oh shit, what is that? Andy ran away from something that scared him. However, the creature was running very fast. His legs, which numbered 6 pieces, immediately lunged at Andy while howling. Ag, help. No. 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 Don't kill me. Don't bite me. Don't eat me. Andy shouted for help. But it's useless. The creature has buried fangs in Andy's neck and eaten the body of its prey. The bedroom door was knocked so hard, Ms. Mitchell repeatedly called her son's name. Andy, what happened? Andy opened the door. However, a loud knock on the door and calls from outside the bedroom were not answered. Mrs. Mitchell kept hearing screams from behind her son's bedroom door. A few moments later, the sound of the key turning from the inside, the bedroom door open, Andy appeared in front of his mother. I'm sorry, Mom. I had a terrible nightmare. Andy said what had happened to his mother, who looked very worried. Are you okay, Andy? Is that okay, son? Mrs. Mitchell asked again about her son's condition, while putting his palm on Andy's forehead. I don't know, Mom. I feel not very well and tired too, Andy answered limply with a pale face. I know it. We have to get to the doctor right now. Ms. Mitchell found Andy's body had a fever. Yes, I need to go to the doctor. Andy agreed to his mother's invitation. Okay then, but you should change your shirt first, take your jacket too and immediately go down. Mrs. Mitchell told Andy to get ready to go to the doctor. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mom. Andy felt very weak at all. Mrs. Mitchell immediately came out of Andy's room and went down to the first floor preparing for a doctor's departure. Meanwhile, Andy sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and held his neck several times like there was something that had made him sick and had difficulty breathing. Thank God it is only a bad dream, a real bad dream and nightmare. ******. Your son is alright. He just needs to rest for a couple of days. Dr. Edward informed Mrs. Mitchell about the situation. Maybe he does need a rest. Are you sure he's okay? Mrs. Mitchell asked Dr. Edward about the condition of his son again. I will give you some vitamins and aspirin. I'm sure his condition will go back to normal very soon. Dr. Edward assured the patient's parents. Thank you, doctor. I'm very worried about my son's condition. Ms. Mitchell was relieved by what Dr. Edward had said. It's just that please pay attention to your eating habits and the amount of time your son rests. Dr. Edward ended the examination and handed over prescriptions to Mrs. Mitchell. Andy did not say much in the doctor's examination room. His mind was still floating, imagining a scary dream this afternoon. Very real, and still felt how sharp canine teeth pierced the flesh of his neck. Andy's mouth was silent all the way home. All words and advice from Mrs. Mitchell were not clearly listened to. Even Andy was unaware that the car had arrived in his garage. Andy, we're home. Are you asleep, or what? Mrs. Mitchell told her son to get out of the car. Oh, I'll get down soon, I'm sorry. Andy immediately got out of the car and entered the house. Mrs. Mitchell just shook her head at her son, then closed the garage door and entered the house with Andy. That night Andy excused himself to sleep first. His eyes were very sleepy due to the influence of drugs from the doctor. The bedroom door was immediately locked from the inside. He lay his body on the bed, but the scary of the dream he had at this afternoon had made his eyes open again. Andy then sat on the study chair, his hand reaching for a pen and scribbling on a blank piece of paper on the table. Lines and shapes were accidentally created. The figure of a strange creature moved from a multi-dimensional realm into 2 dimensions. Sharp fangs, dense feathers, 6-legged, glance like a king of the forest, but there is a striking difference, that the tail is pointed like a spearhead. The sheet of paper was then squeezed by hands full of emotion. Andy threw it under the floor, then sat pensively. Now his fear increased to 2, namely to Bruno and strange creatures in dreams. Oh yeah, why don't I just continue reading the book? Andy remained curious and remembered the work he wanted to finish. So Andy took a crumpled book from the desk drawer and began to read it again. Chapter 1A beginning. You may call my name Smith. I'm 35 years old now and live in Nottingham, England. July 1985, spring, a package arrived at home. Submitted by my Uncle Ned, who works as an archaeologist in the Dutch East Indies. He wrote a little message that I would be interested in the gift shipment. An extraordinary book. A book that is empty, not a single letter is written in it. Andy began to read the first chapter of the book carefully because he wanted to know more about the history that the author would tell. Something happened. I experienced many dreams after receiving this book. Not just an ordinary dream, but a life that I chose to live. A mysterious sentence rewritten in a series of paragraphs. Andy continues to be curious to read again about the dream mentioned. These dreams are very real. They bring into a world that has never been seen before. Some places are not different from the conditions on Earth, but some are not exactly like on Earth. For the first time I felt like a crazy person, experiencing depression and fear. Apparently the author of the book has experienced something extraordinary, has seen new things beyond his reasoning as a human being, so that he has suffered due to various mental stresses. Andy began to understand that there was a link between the nightmare he had experienced with the existence of a mysterious book that was now in his hands. It was started when I was sleeping and woke up at a fountain. Andy was very surprised by the story of the author of the book because he had experienced the same thing. His dream this afternoon began when he fell asleep and woke up in a waterfall. But one thing I can be sure of is that every decision will make a different way to end the story. Enjoy and dream a lot. Once again, the book confirms that the decision to be taken will give a different ending to the story. An event is hidden so that it can be experienced by the reader. Andy has completed the first chapter of the Jaya book, which is an introduction to the origin of the author, a dream that is very real, in a new realm, in a place that is almost the same as the Earth, but there are various things that are unimaginable, and it all starts with waking up in a waterfall. What book is this? Is it true that this nightmare has something to do with this book? Is it just a coincidence because I'm under pressure a lot? Or too long playing online games so that everything is brought into my subconscious? Various questions were born in Andy's head related to the dreams he had experienced. The next sheet of crumpled paper was opened. The drowsiness had vanished, defeated by the curiosity of the stories and clues to be conveyed by the author of the book. Chapter 2A Dreams. I was awake in a lake, very clear, beautiful scenery that cannot be enjoyed every day. The roar of the waterfall adds to the perfection of the place, every eye that looks at it. But I shouldn't have woken up in this place. There's no way I could suddenly move from the bedroom into the dense forest. Anxiety has caused tremendous confusion. Questions and presumptions come and go from the head. Fear is inevitable when the day begins to go late in the evening, so a decision must be taken immediately. I must try to survive today. Then a scary event began. A terrible creature came up from the bushes, chased and devoured me, so real and painful that even now its bite still felt so strongly that it tore my neck. A statement came from the reader who felt a similar incident. Andy's face looked even more curious. The frown on his forehead indicated that he was thinking about something very hard. His head turned towards the left and right sides reflexively to ensure that he was safe. Oh my god, the events described in this book are very similar to the dream I have experienced. Now Andy holds his head, his mouth is unable to speak a word. The horrors he will experience continuously. Painful dreams will soon become his best friends, as the authors of the book have said. Suddenly I woke up with my hand still clutching my neck, standing up from the bed while screaming. That was a very difficult time, because I had to bring horror into the real world, feeling depressed due to being tortured by the same dream every time my eyes were closed, anytime, anywhere. I suffered so much, felt afraid to sleep, and suffered extreme pain. I began to find out what had created all these nightmares, my conclusions pointing to one thing, the gift book from Uncle Ned. The writer tells how he has repeatedly wanted to destroy his book, but after being destroyed it always returns intact, or back to him, after being thrown away, so he reminds him to relax and enjoy every story, because something big has been waiting for his readers. Apparently Andy's thought was right, his suspicions had been answered by the author's confession. I burnt this book, I discarded it, I buried it, I gave it to me, but it was in vain, because it always came back by itself in one piece. But if there is no book, then the next story will never be written. So, enjoy this book, read with pleasure, because your way will not be the same anymore. Fear is your biggest enemy. Andy woke up in a lake, looked back at the view of the waterfall, did something different from what he had done in his previous dreams. This time he immediately ran towards the forest, away from the place where he would be devoured by wild animals. But the creature always came back, chased, pounced, and then Andy had to get up again to shout from his bed. And so on over and over again, even though all means have been done to avoid the same incident. The crumpled book was turned over and over again. Each sentence is read and contemplated to find the meaning or instructions, but up to several days, Andy hasn't been able to find anything that can make him safe from the fangs of fearsome creatures. Andy, your breakfast is ready, let's get down. Mrs. Mitchell shouted from the dining room, because her child hadn't come out of the bedroom yet. Okay, Mom, just a second. Andy answered his mother's call. This is the third day that Andy did not go to school, during which time he never left his house. He was always in his bedroom and only occasionally went down to the first floor to accompany his mother to eat together. How is your feeling today? Are you sleep well last night? Mrs. Mitchell asked about her son's condition, which still looked unwell. I'm still having nightmares and waking up from sleep, but it is okay. I can handle it. Andy explained his condition to Mrs. Mitchell. Did you take your medicine? You must get well soon. I don't want to see my boy laying at bed too long. Ms. Mitchell hopes that Andy will recover quickly because he doesn't want to see his son lying too long in bed. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Andy felt very happy for his mother's attention. Now, let us pray before breakfast. Mrs. Mitchell invited Andy to pray before eating breakfast. After that, Mrs. Mitchell would soon say goodbye to her son and leave the house to work. As a single parent, her job has doubled. That is, she must be a good mother and the backbone of the family after her husband died 3 years ago. After his mother left for work, the dirty book was opened again, and he looked very eager to finish the nightmare he suffered. Huffed if there was another clue on the next page. Why does my every step always fail? Continue to meet the creature everywhere, but actually why I have to die? Isn't that my dream? Why does he have to devour me? Why should I run? That strange creature is indeed very frightening. Is he perhaps my greatest form of fear, as the writer of this book said? Yes, that's right. Maybe I'm too afraid to face problems, run from difficulties, and eventually haunt me all the time. Oh my god, maybe that's the answer. That creature can't be defeated unless I dare to face it. I will not be devoured unless ready not to run from that creature. Andy finally found a bright spot, a conclusion, a courage, an answer that might end the nightmare and open the way to continue the rest of the story in the pages of the book he was holding.